Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we dive into the latest news and stories from around the world. I'm your host, Walter, and we're glad you're joining us today. We've got a packed show for you, but first, let's take a closer look at the ongoing situation in the Middle East. As we've been following the developments, Israel has launched a second war in Gaza, with the Israeli military occupying about half of the territory. The conflict has resulted in the displacement of over 390,000 people, according to the United Nations, and humanitarian aid to the Strip has been halted. The situation is dire, with civilians caught in the middle and living conditions at an all-time low. Now we want to provide you with a balanced view of the situation. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has stated that the goal of the operation is to defeat Hamas militarily and ensure the safety of Israeli citizens. However, others argue that the military action will only lead to more suffering for civilians and potentially destabilize the region further. We've also seen reports of minimal resistance from Hamas, with no Israeli troops killed in the conflict so far. But the question remains, what's the endgame here? Is this a strategy to annex Gaza and populate it with settlers, as some have suggested? Or is it a genuine attempt to root out terrorism and ensure regional security? To add another layer of complexity, U.S. President Trump has weighed in on the situation, stating that he'd like to see the war stop, but also acknowledging the need to address the issue of hostages. It's unclear how his administration will navigate this delicate situation, especially given the potential implications for the region and the global community. As we continue to monitor the situation, we'll be bringing you updates and insights from experts and individuals on the ground. We'll explore the historical context, the political motivations, and the human impact of this conflict. And, as always, we'll strive to provide a fair and balanced perspective, avoiding bias and sensationalism. So, stay with us as we delve deeper into this critical story and its far-reaching implications. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're diving into the complex world of international politics, where tensions are running high between nations. Today, we're focusing on the escalating situation with Iran and its nuclear ambitions. Recent developments have raised concerns globally, as Iran continues to push forward with its nuclear program, despite warnings from the international community. The United States, in particular, has been vocal about its opposition to Iran's actions, with some officials calling for a more aggressive approach to counter the Iranian regime. On one hand, there are those who argue that a tougher stance is necessary to prevent Iran from becoming a nuclear power, citing the potential risks to regional and global stability. On the other hand, others believe that diplomacy and dialogue should be the primary tools used to resolve the issue, highlighting the need for a peaceful resolution that avoids further conflict. It's worth noting that the situation is complex, with multiple stakeholders involved, including European nations, Russia, and China. Each of these countries has its own interests and motivations, which can sometimes align and other times diverge. In related news, a recent survey found that a significant percentage of Americans oppose certain foreign policy moves, including taking over Gaza or annexing Greenland. These findings suggest that the public is divided on how to approach international relations, with some favoring a more isolationist approach and others advocating for a more engaged and interventionist role. As we navigate these intricate geopolitical landscapes, it's essential to consider multiple perspectives and evaluate the potential consequences of different actions. By doing so, we can work towards a deeper understanding of the issues at hand and foster more informed discussions about the best way forward. The situation with Iran is a prime example of how international relations can be both delicate and volatile. As we move forward, it's crucial to prioritize diplomacy, dialogue, and cooperation to find solutions that benefit all parties involved. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block, folks. We're wrapping up today's show with a look at the latest developments in Argentina, where workers have launched a widespread 24-hour strike against President Javier Milei's austerity measures. The strike has brought trains, planes, and ports to a halt, with banks, schools, and government agencies also affected. Now, let's dive into the details. The strike is a response to Milei's efforts to slash public spending, which have been likened to wielding a chainsaw on the country's social programs. Unions are demanding that the government reinstate sacked employees, reopen salary talks, and scrap plans to privatize some public firms. It's worth noting that Argentina has been struggling with high inflation and economic instability for some time, and Milei's measures aim to address these issues. However, critics argue that his approach will only exacerbate poverty and inequality. On the other hand, supporters of Milei's government argue that tough decisions need to be made to get the country back on track. They point out that Argentina has a history of fiscal irresponsibility, and that drastic measures are needed to restore economic stability. As we report on this story, it's essential to acknowledge the complexities and nuances at play. The situation in Argentina is multifaceted, with various stakeholders holding different perspectives. While some see Milei's measures as necessary, others view them as an attack on the country's social fabric. The U.S. has also been involved in the situation, with President Trump's administration offering support for Milei's economic reform agenda. AIDailyPress. This has sparked controversy, with some arguing that the U.S. is interfering in Argentina's internal affairs. As we conclude this segment, it's clear that the situation in Argentina is far from resolved. The strike is a testament to the deep-seated concerns and frustrations of the Argentine people. As the country navigates these challenging times, it's crucial to consider the diverse range of opinions and perspectives at play. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, stay informed.